via email, we'll be providing you with a 10% discount for the content stores. You can buy whatever you want, get a 10% discount from us, and also give us your valuable feedback for any topics you'd like to see in future webinars, any other questions you have, or things that you'd like to check out as well. Okay, so I think that's about it. Again, I'm just going to introduce Victoria again. Thanks again, Victoria, for being with us. I can hear you loud and clear. So yeah, I think at this point here, I've already given you kind of an introduction. I'll just hand it over to you without further ado and let you go ahead and do your thing. Are you there? Hey, Victoria, can you hear me? I hope Victoria can hear me. Okay, let me just see if I can. Let me have her headphones muted there. Okay, you guys should be able to hear me. I can't hear Victoria. I can't hear Victoria at the moment. Let me just. See if we can get her on. I can hear her typing in the background, but maybe she can't hear me. Let's see if I can just message her.
I'm here. Do you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Hi.
Hey, are you ready to go? Okay, yeah. All right, I think she should be going ahead in just a moment. Yeah, her audio is on, so I can hear her for sure. If you guys can hear her like kind of typing in the background, maybe just type that in your chat window. We'll try and. Yeah, I think maybe she can't hear me speaking.
No, my speaker is working. Can you hear me? I can't hear you.
Oh, okay, interesting. Okay, just go ahead. Okay, they can hear both of us, so not sure. Maybe you can't hear me.
Okay, so let's get started.
Okay.
Just let's check my computer sound also first. Can you hear something?
Yep, sounds good.
Okay, so let's get started. Now I'm going to show you how I created my 2D animated short, Welcome to Odessa. Let me play it back for you.
Welcome to Odessa, a legendary city with its own very special culture, traditions, and even with its own cuisine. Odessa is situated in Eastern Europe at the Black Sea coast. Here's a secret map of the city, made by well-known Ukrainian painter Yuli Halperin. Here is the monument of a Frenchman, Duc de Richelieu, in the very center of our city. You're probably wondering, why? Duc de Richelieu was one of our city founders. After a great career as a governor of Odessa, he became Prime Minister of France, but we call him our Duke. The famous Potemkin Stairs. We proudly call this giant staircase the 8th wonder of the world. And here's our opera and ballet house. Just look at it. It's a real architectural masterpiece. Odessa always celebrates something. And that's why here is a joke. The last but not the least.
Excuse me, are you from Odessa?
Yes, I am.
Is it a nice city, Odessa?
You've never been there?
I am going there for the first time.
You look like you must be 30 years old. What have you been doing all these years that you haven't seen Odessa?
So that's what we're gonna analyze. We'll be even recreating some of that, but not all of that today. The first thing I usually start with is, of course, the script. Here it is. I've tried to make the story as fast-paced as I could. There are so many things that I could tell you about my beautiful city and about Yuli Halperin and his paintings. But my goal was to attract the interest so that the viewer just wanted to know much more about Odessa and about Ukrainian painter Yuli Halperin. Once I had the script, I was ready to create my audio. I needed 3 components for that: voiceover, background music, and sound effects. For this particular short film, I ordered voiceover on Fiverr, but the role of my tourist character was not very important. This character wasn't thought to be very emotional, so I decided to use Reusable's TTS on-demand service. I just entered my text into this field. The language was US English. In this field, you can choose your character. There are some male and female voices, and let's just preview this.
Excuse me. Are you from Odessa? Is it a nice city, Odessa? I am going there for the first time.
And if you're happy with this, you can convert your audio using output format and sample rate that you need. And then just download your track. For my background music and sound effects, I prefer to use a service called Storyblocks. They have tons of royalty-free tracks and sound effects with a quite affordable yearly subscription. And I'm always sure that my music is entirely legal and I won't have any problems with it. Once I have all my sound components, I'm ready to mix them in Adobe Audition. Of course, you can use for this Audacity or any other software. And eventually, we are prepared to jump into CrazyTalk Animator. I did the entire project on a Microsoft Surface Pro 4 with no NVIDIA card inside. I was surprised that I could effectively use CrazyTalk Animator on a tablet. My display resolution here is quite large. And if you first open CrazyTalk Animator in here, it looks like this. Font size and icons are way too small, and it is absolutely impossible to work efficiently in here. But now you can go to the Edit menu, Preference, and here in 4K resolution, just enable Enlarge Font and UI option and click OK. You need to restart CrazyTalk Animator for the changes to take effect. And you can easily use CrazyTalk Animator on a tablet. But now I will not use my Microsoft Surface because it is not very convenient to share my screen with you using a tablet. The first scene we are going to analyze is logo animation. Let me just play it back for you. And now I'm going to recreate this scene. At this point, I need to create my draft image in Adobe Photoshop. But before I go into that, I prefer to find colors for my scene. I use a Creative Cloud service, Adobe Color CC, for that. Here we can create our own color themes or just explore the most used or most popular color themes. With this set, let's jump to Adobe Photoshop. Here you can see my finished draft image. I will not recreate this for you now. It is pretty straightforward. Let me just analyze the layers panel. Here you can see all the elements I need for my animation: background, line bottom, line top. I want these lines to appear first in my animation. Then I will animate circles. They will appear one by one. And then I want to make a simple strokes animation, a simple burst. And finally goes the logo itself and its parts, the words animation and at work. So you can see that I arranged all these layers in the order they will appear in my animation. And now let's jump to CrazyTalk Animator. Here we have a new CrazyTalk Animator project. Let me tweak render settings first. Render video, format MP4, frame size, HD 1080p. And now let's just drag my logo PSD into CrazyTalk Animator. Here in PSD import options, choose prop. And after a while, composer mode is opened. And here in Scene Manager, we can see all the elements we need to animate. And if we select these elements one by one, we can see this red dot in the center of each element. These are the pivot points. They were automatically generated inside CrazyTalk Animator in the center of each element. And all future transformations of these elements will be relative to these pivot points. We can easily change these pivot points positions here inside CrazyTalk Animator. For example, I need to change this line top pivot point position because I want to scale this line towards the center of this circle. So let's press this pivot button, and here I can choose area to assign pivot. I will choose this center bottom point and close pivot window. If I select this line top again, you can see where is our pivot now. I will change line bottom pivot also. Go to pivot. Where is my, just a second. I can see my window where, pivot window where I can choose. Something is wrong. Ah, here it is. Here I will choose this center top point and close pivot. Let me select this line again. And now press this backstage button. And here we are in the stage mode. Let me just scale this a bit to cover this rectangular rendered area. In the Scene Manager, we can see only one prop with no elements inside. If you don't see Scene Manager in here, just go to the window menu and enable Scene Manager or press F5 keyboard shortcut. To animate all the elements of this prop, just press this prop key editor button in here or use K keyboard shortcut. And now we can see all the elements in the Scene Manager. Let me switch off the visibility of all these layers except line bottom and background. I want this line bottom to appear from the bottom and line top from the top, and they should meet their initial position in 15 frames. So let me select this line bottom, press F3 to open the timeline. And here we can see all the tracks related to this selected line. Go to frame 15, double click here in line bottom T, transform track to fix this line position at this point in time. Go back to our first frame and move this line to -95 in Y direction. Let's play this animation. As you can see, it is linear. To change this, just select this last keyframe, right-click, and go to Transition Curve. I want this animation to start quickly and slow down in the end, so I will use this decelerate curve. Now let's animate this line height scale. With this line selected, just type 1 in here. Unfortunately, it is impossible to make scale value 0 for now. I don't know why, I wish I could. If I just close this prop key editor, you can see this little stroke in here. But I can fix this playing with opacity. Let's go back to our prop key editor. Here with line bottom selected, just move this opacity slider to 0. Go 1 frame back and move opacity slider back to 100. And now let's play. This is what we have so far. Let's animate line top the same way. Go to frame 15, double click, just type here in its height scale value 1, make its opacity 0, go 1 frame back and make its opacity 100. Go to the first frame and move this line 260, maybe a little bit more, in Y direction. We need to change our transition curve. Decelerate. Now we are ready to animate our dark blue circle. Here it is. I know that it should be invisible from the first frame to frame 15. So let's jump to the first frame and move opacity slider to 0. Then go to frame 15, move opacity slider to 100, and go 1 frame back and make it invisible again. Here in the frame 15, let's start to animate its scale. Enable this lock ratio option to animate width and height at the same time. Make this scale value 10 and go 10 frames forward. And make this scale 100 again. Oh, sorry, 100. I don't want this animation to be linear, so go to Transition Curve and choose Decelerate. Now play this back to see what we have so far. I will animate all other circles, the white one, yellow, and fiery orange, the same way. But I won't repeat this. Let me just open the finished result. Here it is. Let's play this back. Now let's make a simple burst animation. I want this burst animation to start just before our dark blue circle disappears. Frame 27 would be okay. Let's open our prop key editor again, show strokes, and scale them. So we could see only these little dots outside the white circle. Go to frame 35 and make its scale 100. Make this transition curve decelerate also. And now let's play with opacity. Let's jump to the first frame, make the strokes invisible. Frame 26. Double click here in our opacity track to fix its opacity at 0. Go 1 frame forward and make its opacity 100. Go to frame 35, double click here to fix its opacity at 100. Go one frame forward and make its opacity 0 again. Let's play this back. Now I need to reveal the logo. I want this animation to start just where this orange circle starts to appear. Frame 31 would be okay. Let me select logo, show it. With lock ratio enabled, make its scale 1. Move opacity slider to 0. Go to the next frame and move opacity slider to 100. Now let's jump to frame 50 and make its scale 100. Now let's go to the first frame and make this logo invisible again. We will also change our transition curve, but this time I will use this and in a bounce curve. Next, we will animate our words. Select animation first, show it. Go to frame 65 and double click here to fix this word position at this point in time. Go to frame 50 and move this word to -400 in X direction. Copy this keyframe and paste this to the first frame. Don't forget to change transition curve. We will use and in a bounce also. Now the last word, at work, show it. Move to frame 75. Double click here in transform track. Go to frame 60 and move this word 400 in X direction. Copy this keyframe and paste this to the first frame. Change transition curve to end in a bounce. Now let's play back this animation. Now I need just to add my background music. Go to the first frame, create menu, create sound, background music. And here I will choose this audio.
Welcome to Odessa.
And I'd like to show you one more thing. Once this animation is done, we can make an animated prop and reuse this as many times as we want. Let me just press collect clip, select all our animated frames, right click and add to action menu. Let's name this animate and click OK. Go to the content manager, prop, custom, and press this plus button. Let's name this logo 1. Now let's create a new file. Double click this logo 1. Right click and choose animate from action menu. And here is our animation again. And we can easily tweak this. Go to the composer mode, select logo, go to sprite editor, press this replace icon, and here I have Yuli Hyperion Foundation logo. Let me change our words also. Replace sprite, foundation, select this word, replace sprite, go back to stage, and play this back. And here is our finished Julie Halperian Foundation logo animation. For all other scenes, let me just open my slides. Here they are. Yes, for all other scenes, I used a slightly different approach. I've made all my assets in Adobe Photoshop or Illustrator, or just purchased appropriate stock images and combined them into the scenes inside CrazyTalk Animator. And I used different elastic motions to animate these props. Let's recreate this last scene. Let's open this scene in CrazyTalk Animator. Here it is. Here's my finished shot. I prefer to make separate projects for each shot and then to combine them in Adobe Premiere Pro. This project starts from the frame 990, but we can see only clouds moving till frame 134. And then I start to animate all other props. Let me jump to the last frame. Here in Scene Manager, select all the props, right-click and remove Object Animation. And we will recreate this animation. But first, let me just press this 3D view icon so you can see how I arranged all these props in 3D view. Next, I will go to the first frame of this project, select all the monuments and buildings and numbers, press this icon to make them invisible. Now select all the clouds, jump to the last frame, move them a little bit. To fix their position at this point in time, go back to the first frame and move them to the left. And I will move some of these clouds separately to add variety to their animation. Next, I will jump to frame 1034. At this point, I will move Scene Manager out to select props easier and faster. Let's select our Duke monument, make it visible, and I will animate this using elastic motions. You can find elastic motions in Content Manager, elastic motions. And I will use this entrance, G3, elastic motions, come and go bundle. Here we have scale and open button option. Just double click to apply this animation. And here we have our finished animation. We can see, let me just click on this object related track button so I can see only tracks related to this selected prop. Here under motion, you can see our clip. Just before the end of this clip, I will start revealing my next prop. Go 3 frames back, 1, 2, 3, select my building O1, make it visible, and apply the same motion. 1, 2, 3 frames back, building O2, make it visible, apply motion. 1, 2, 3, building O3, make it visible, apply motion. 1, 2, 3, building O4, make it visible, apply motion. 1, 2, 3, building O5, make it visible, apply motion. 1, 2, 3, building 06, make it visible, apply motion. 1, 2, 3, select our first monument, make it visible, and apply motion. To animate numbers, let me go to frame 1115. Select my first number, make it visible, and apply the same motion. I want to reveal my numbers with a 5-frame interval. So let me go to this motion track, go to the beginning of this clip, count to 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, select next number, make it visible, and apply motion. Go to motion, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, select next number, make it visible, apply motion. The same thing, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, next number, make it visible, and apply motion. Now let's animate dash. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, select, make it visible, apply motion. Next numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, select, make it visible, apply motion. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, select, make it visible, apply motion. 2 numbers more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, select, make it visible, apply motion. And finally, the last one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, select, make it visible, and apply motion. Now let me just turn on my background music, go to the first frame, and play this back.
Duc de Richelieu was one of our city founders. After a great career as a governor of Odessa, he became Prime Minister of France.
Here we have our finished animation. Next, I'd like to analyze a scene which was animated with a different approach. Let me play this back.
Here's a secret map of the city, made by well-known Ukrainian painter Yuli Halperin. Here is the...
Let's open this scene in CrazyTalk Animator. Here it is. Here is my project with all the props. If I press this 3D view icon and hold Alt and right mouse button, I can rotate in 3D view. Or holding Alt and left mouse button, I can pan. So you can recognize how I arranged all these props. This project starts on frame 492 and finishes on frame 786. But we have no animation yet. I'll start to animate camera movements. To do this, we need to enter camera render mode. Just press this icon. And to animate camera, we use these 3 icons to zoom, pan, and rotate. But I prefer to remember shortcuts: Z to zoom, X to pan, and C to rotate. So let's zoom a little bit, rotate, and pan. Next, I prefer to play back music to understand at which point in time to move my camera. So let's listen.
Here's a secret map of the city, made by well-known Ukrainian painter Yuli Halperin.
And I think that I will start moving my camera before the storyteller says, made by well-known Ukrainian painter. So let me just find this moment. I will scroll.
Here's a secret map of the city made by
And I think frame 580 would be okay. Now I need to find my camera in the timeline. Here it is, under the project. And if you don't see project in here, just press this track list icon and enable project. Now I will just double click in here to fix my camera position at this point in time. Go 15 frames forward and pan the camera. I will change transition curve also to decelerate. Let me play this back.
Here's a secret map of the city made by well-known Ukrainian painter Yuli Halperin.
Next, I will animate props. I know that I don't want to see anything in this scene till the frame 525. I'll explain a bit later how I usually make a decision or when to start animating props or characters in my scenes. Now let's go to the scene manager. Select all the props except background and make them invisible. Go to frame 525, select line O1 and make it visible. I want this line to appear from the top and stop at this position in 10 frames. So let's jump 10 frames forward. Let me just turn off my background music. Open our line O1 transform track and double click in here to fix its position at this point in time. Go 10 frames back and move this line to 420 in Y direction. Let's change transition curve to decelerate and move to animating the matte. Make it visible. This time I will use elastic motions. Entrance. And here we have this G3 elastic motion spongy moves bundle on this spot. And here is turn page elastic motion. Just double click to apply animation. Press this motion track and go to the beginning of this clip. Now maybe somewhere in here. And start to animate our painting. Make it visible and apply the same turn page motion. And I want to show you one more thing. As you can see, this image and this matte also are not very smooth. And we can fix this. Select this matte one first. Here, go to prop key editor, deform, and enable this smooth deformed object option. And you can see that now this matte is much more smoother. Let's make this with our painting also. Prop key editor, smooth deformed object. Let's move on and animate other props. As you can see, my camera moves and stops on frame 595. Let's select line 02, meta 02, and photo and make them visible. I want them to appear in the center. So let's move them and scale a little bit. Right click and remove object animation. And because I removed object animation, I need to go to the first frame of this project and make them invisible again. Let's turn back to frame 595. Select line 02 first, make it visible. I want this line to appear from the top also and stop at this position in 10 frames. So let me just go 10 frames forward. Open this transform track, double click to fix its position in here, go 10 frames back and move this line 380, maybe a little bit more in Y direction. I need to change transition curve to decelerate. Now let's select Met 02, make it visible, enable a smooth deformed object option first, and apply turn page elastic motion. And now let's go somewhere in here, make our photo visible, enable smooth deformed object option, and apply turn page elastic motion. Next, I'd like to find the moment before the storyteller says, Yuli Halperin. So let's listen. I will just scroll. Somewhere in here, I'd like to move all this to the right and start to reveal my text. So let's select line 2 first. Here in transform track, double click to fix its position, make this with matte and with photo also. Now let's go 10 frames forward. Select all these elements and move them to the right and scale a little bit. Like this. And I need to tweak transition curves. Select line 02, transition curve, decelerate. Matte 02. And photo. And here is the best point to reveal the name. Select Yuli, make it visible. Move a little bit in Y direction. And apply, no, let's just enable smooth deformed object first. And apply turn page elastic motion. Now select the surname, Halperin. Make this visible. Enable smooth deformed object option. And apply animation. And I think this animation is finished. So let's just play this back.
Here's a secret map of the city, made by well-known Ukrainian painter Yuli Halperin.
Next, I'm gonna talk about my characters. There were 4 characters in my 2D animated short. Let's start with this simple character. This is just an image of the sailor's wife monument. You can find this composition of a young woman with a small child at the marina in Odessa seaport. Let's create a new CrazyTalk animator project. And here I have a PNG image of this monument. Let me just drag this into CrazyTalk animator. And here in Create Object window, choose G3 Freebone Actor. And you can see our character appears on the screen. We have no bones on it yet, but we have this bone editor that pops up. I need to animate only this child. He will wave his arm. So I will make a very simple bone setup. I'm gonna press this Add Bone button, and then with my left click, I'm gonna click over here, then once here at the top. And if you wanna stop adding bones, you can press Escape key or just right click your mouse. Then I will add some bones to this child. Press Add Bone button again, left click over here, then once more here, one bone for his neck and once more over there at the top. I want to add additional bones for my character's arm because I want to manipulate this arm. Select Add Bone again, and if I hover over different bones, they'll turn green, just like that. Click on this node right here, so you can see that now we have the option to extend a bone this way. I'm going to click here, then midway through the arm, and on the end of the forearm, and another one on the end of the fingers. And then I go ahead and right click. Now let's press Preview button, select this forearm bone, and rotate. And this is basically what I need. So I'm gonna close Bone Editor and press Backstage button. Now let's make this simple wavy animation. With this actor selected, open 2D Motion Key Editor. Use this button or K keyboard shortcut. Select this forearm bone and open the timeline, F3. Let's assume that this is our straight forearm. Go 10 frames forward and rotate to the right. Now let's go to frame 20 and reset to straighten the forearm. Go 10 frames forward and rotate to the left. 10 frames forward more and reset. This is now animated, but the timing is even. I want it to be fast in the middle and slow down in the extreme right and left positions. So let me select this keyframe, right click, transition curve, and choose decelerate. And I will choose accelerate for this straight forearm position. Decelerate for our next extreme left position and accelerate in here. And let's play what we have so far. I will not repeat this process. I just will make an action from this, and then I will loop this as many times as I need. To do this, press Collect Clip. Now let's select all animated frames except the last one, right click and add to action menu. Let's name this wave and press OK. Go to the first frame, right click and remove object animation. Now right click again, action menu, and choose this wave action. Here under motion track, you can see this clip, and with loop icon activated, if we hover over there, you can see this little arrow cursor appears. Just left click and drag as many times as you need. And now let's play back. Here we have our looping animation. But the most interesting character for me was this Odessa citizen. And that's because of his facial hair. I've managed to move this hair with character's facial animation. To do this, I just added facial hair to all his mouth shapes. Here you can see all of them. Let me open my PSD template. Here it is. There are many tutorials on Reusable's YouTube channel about how to make such templates. So I will not recreate this template for you now. Let's just create a new CrazyTalk animator project. And let's drag this template into CrazyTalk animator. My computer is a little bit slow, and sometimes CrazyTalk animator is not responding when I try to import my templates, but we need to wait a little bit. And in a while, hopefully, yes, the character appears on the screen with all the bones and sprites we need to animate. Let me select this character face and make face preview. Here you can see these huge gaps between his face and facial hair. And we can reduce this if we take this face depth all the way down to 1. And let's make face preview again. Now select this character's mouth and open facial animation setup, this button. Here we need to tweak all these expressions. To do this, just select these points and move them where they need to be. You can make multiple selections by holding Control on your keyboard. Sometimes we need decrease strength and then to move these points. But I will not tweak all the expressions now. I just wanted to show you how I made this facial setup. And let me just open my finished result. Here it is. I've used the latest facial animation mockup feature. And in a while, you can see our result. Here it is. Let's play this back.
You look like you must be 30 years old. What have you been doing all these years that you haven't seen Odessa?
Usually, I prefer to make facial animation first, so I can see only my character's face, and it is easier to tweak facial expressions this way. And once my facial animation is completed, I start to make body animation and camera movements. I prefer to use a separate CrazyTalk animator projects for each shot. This project actually was an exception. Here you can see 2 shots. This over the shoulder shot, and the second one, this medium close up. There is only one camera in CrazyTalk animator, and we can switch between the shots using camera movements. Here in my camera track, you can see my camera position till frame 80.
You look like you must be 30 years old.
And on the next frame, I just moved the camera in camera record mode to do this medium close-up. As I already told you, I create separate CrazyTalk animator projects for almost each shot. And because how I like to combine my rendered shots, I use Adobe Premiere Pro. However, this is not necessary. You can create a new CrazyTalk animator project to combine all your rendered scenes inside. I want to show you as a tip how I usually decide on which frame to start my next shot. We will analyze a shot we've already recreated in this video. Here are all my scenes from CrazyTalk Animator combined inside Adobe Premiere Pro. And this Premiere Pro sequence has the same render settings as my scenes in CrazyTalk Animator have, 1080p, 30 frames per second. So let's jump to frame 990. Just type 919 here, but if you don't see frames, just hold Control and click until you see frames. My previous scene finishes here, frame 1018. So I could just start my next scene from the next frame, but I wanted to use these beautiful transition with question marks. By the way, all the transitions I used in my project are from digitaljuice.com. I love this site. There are tons of different transitions, overlays, animated backgrounds, and other useful things. And here in Premiere Pro, I have a transition that consists of two tracks, matte track and swipe track. Now let me turn off the visibility of these two tracks and turn on the visibility of my matte track. The matte track is just a black and white video. And we need to understand that we will see our previous scene through whites. And our next scene will appear through blacks. So I need to find the first frame, which is completely black, and place it right at the end of our previous scene. And now I can see that my next scene should start at frame 990. But I don't need to animate this scene from this frame. As you can see, my scene will gradually reveal through these blacks. And let me turn on my second transition layer. Now I will scroll to define where to start my main animation. And I think here is the best point, frame 1034. And that is basically all that I wanted to tell you. Thank you for your attention.
All right, so hopefully, Victoria, can you hear me now? Not yet. Okay, so hopefully Victoria will be able to get her speakers working properly there. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and take care of the Q&A section myself for now, until we get Victoria on the correct speaker system there. So yeah, if you guys have any questions about what's going on here, or any questions relating to Reillusion, any other questions, you can just go ahead and put those in the Q&A section there, and I'll be able to answer those for you. And we'll go for the next maybe 10 minutes or so, 15 minutes or so, answering any questions you might have. All right, so thanks again to Victoria, if you can hear me, for that awesome presentation. She's a very talented 3D artist. This is actually her very first 2D presentation. Okay, so she's done mostly 3D work in the past. This is her first 2D presentation. A lot of really useful tips in there, I found. Some stuff that's actually not even covered by the tutorials that we've released. So again, we're going to be sending out a link for you guys to review this on your own time. We're going to be emailing you a link for the recorded webinar. So if you have anything that you want to review on your own time, you can go ahead and do that. And we'll be publishing this on YouTube as well, or it's actually running live on YouTube. Okay, so yeah, all right. So I think what we're going to do right now is head to the Q&A section. I'll try and answer any of the questions that we have from relating to the Reillusion questions, but any project-related questions for Victoria, hopefully we can get her to listen for those. Okay, so Frank F says, which music or sound resource was recommended? I believe the music or sound resource, I'll have to ask that to Victoria. But Premiere is being used here for the post editing and everything like that, of course. So a lot of people are saying thanks to Victoria here. So Frank F there, we'll try and get to your question a little bit later on once we get Victoria to on the microphone here. Okay. So Robert asks, are there any manuals or books that go into Reillusion? Okay, Robert, so basically all the manuals, if you want to get to any Reillusion product manual, you can just go up to the help file, the help menu there, and you should be able to find the manuals for there. I'll just go ahead and load it up really quick, and I'll provide a link in the chat window while we're working here. Let me just load up CrazyTalk Animator. And at that point here, I'll send you a link in the chat window for the manual for Reillusion. So hopefully that'll come up in just a moment here. All right, and James mentions, thank you, Victoria. I discovered a number of ways to animate for openings. Yeah, I think Victoria's openings were very well done using the elastic motions and everything like that, and custom animation. I think it's a really valuable webinar to review, especially if you're learning how to use CrazyTalk Animator for the first time, or you want to animate, especially the introductions and the title screens and everything like that. I think Victoria did an excellent job for that. So thanks for that, James. I'm going to just go to the chat window here, or put that link in the chat window. So if anyone cannot find the help files for CrazyTalk Animator, I put a link for those inside the chat window. Let me just make sure I'm sending it to everyone here. I'm not just, there we go. Yeah, that's the manual for CrazyTalk Animator 3. And of course, you can get to that by going up to the help menu, and under help, you'll see the user manual. You can also just press the F1 hotkey when you're in CrazyTalk Animator 3, press the F1 hotkey, and that'll load up the manual in your browser window. Okay, so hopefully you got that answered for you there. Okay, so Pierre asks a pretty good question here. When creating your art assets in Photoshop, are your art assets created at the same resolution as your CrazyTalk Animator project, or are the individual assets like characters created at a higher resolution? I can answer that question generally there for you, Pierre. When you're importing in assets, as a prop, just a 2D image as a prop or something like that, I'd recommend using a high resolution. The high resolution, the better. I try to use at least 2K. So that's 2048 by 2048 when you're creating props. Now, again, it really depends on what you're using that prop for in your scene. If you need it to be like really close up to the camera, then you want to make sure your resolution is very high. Okay. If you have a prop in the background that you don't really need, you can maybe even create different versions of the same prop. Just have one at lower resolution, one at high resolution, and you can custom save those. But I recommend, generally it's better to have a high resolution prop and just shrink it down than it is to have a lower resolution prop, because when you try and blow that size up, it's going to just have a pixelated effect, and it's not going to look very clean. And also on that note, it's recommended to use PNG images, obviously, because those are transparent image formats. Okay, so export your props from Photoshop as PNG files. So characters as well, same thing goes for characters. Now we have the character template, the character G2 character template. if you're not aware of where to find the G3 template, I can provide a link for you guys for that as well. It comes with the pipeline version of Character Creator, or not Character Creator, rather CrazyTalk Animator 3. The pipeline version comes with a PSD template. Okay, so if you don't have the pipeline version, you may not be able to access or you won't be able to import in the PSD file just in one click, single click using the composer. Okay, let me just go to CrazyTalk Animator here. So I'm going to provide a link for you guys in the chat window that contains all of the templates and all the white papers. This is part of the Developer Center, very important link I'm about to put in the chat window here for you guys. So let's get that going. Okay, so this is the Developer Center, and it's mainly used for people who want to develop their own characters, maybe sell them in the marketplace, sell them in the content store and stuff like that. All the developer resources can be found at that link that I put in the chat window, okay, including the templates that I mentioned earlier. So make sure you check that link out, save that link, and okay, so okay, question from Cygnus. We'll move on to the next question here. Is it possible to use a transition curve on the keyframe camera? Yeah, you can use a transition curve, the preset transition curves on the keyframe camera. We don't have a curve editor yet for CrazyTalk Animator, but you can definitely use basically any prop or camera or whatever in your scene that has transform keyframes. You can use the transition curve presets on those. Okay. Hopefully Victoria can hear me at some point here. Rosemary's mentioning here, I'd like to design my own clothing for the characters and draw on them if need be. I have pipeline. Not sure what I'm doing when it comes to modifying characters. Okay, so Rosemary, that link I provided in the chat window there, I would definitely recommend checking that out. That's very relevant to your question. It provides you with a white paper. I'll show you guys here. Maybe I'll just share my own screen. Might as well. Let's just share right here. All right, so hopefully you guys can see my screen right now. So go to developer.reallusion.com and right here, and then you go to resources, and then CrazyTalk Animator. Okay, you can find all the resources right here. Just click on that, and then you'll find down here. Just move that Q&A window here. You'll find the white papers. Okay, so this is the free G3 character PSD template download. Okay, so you can click this and it'll download all for you. I believe it's my internet's acting up here, but yeah. So just go to that site, resources, and you'll find all the relevant tutorials and reasons that you'll need. That'll be very relevant question, Rosemary. Okay. So Kate asks, how long did it take her to complete the entire animation? Yeah, I'll have to ask her that. I don't know the exact time it took her, but I think the entire video is close to 3 minutes, and generally a 3-minute animation. Again, it depends on the complexity. CrazyTalk Animator, very easy and quick program. A very basic version of that can be done in a day if you have like maybe 9 hours or something like that. Nothing more than a few days. A lot of as well that you mentioned. So again, I'm just speculating for my own speed, I guess. That'd be a few days of. Okay, so hopefully I answered Cygnus's question there. James, there a limitation to the font you can use? Really no limit amount you can use in Photoshop. You download fonts, purchase, like that marketplace. There's thousands and gazillions of fonts you can purchase from marketplaces on there. Pretty. I have a friend who's really into photography and literally has thousands upon thousands of fonts. really no limits in Photoshop to answer your question. Okay, so Sadiakon asks, what status of vector graphics? Maybe you can. Whoops, seems like maybe my Zoom webinar just reconnected there. Hopefully all of you guys can hear me. The question I was asked from Subdiacon here is, okay, yep, someone can hear me. The status of the vector graphics. So maybe you can elaborate, Subdiacon, a little bit more on what you're talking about with the vector graphics. I'll just bypass that for now. Okay, Les asks a good question, and we've had a lot of people here, a lot of users actually reach out to me myself asking about, working freelance, using CrazyTalk Animator to do freelance projects for different corporations. And I've done a lot of this myself in the past as well. Les Henderson asks a good question. Is it a good idea to create basic animation projects for companies in advance of a contract, even if it's just for practice? That's a tricky one to answer. Generally, what I would recommend doing for anyone who's interested in.
Hi, I can hear you now.
Okay, hey, there we got Victoria. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
All right. So we got the.
Should I answer some questions?
Yeah, no worries. Okay, so there was one question here. Les, I'll get to your question in just a moment. The question from the beginning here was from Frank. Victoria, he had asked which music and sound resources you recommend.
I've already told you that I use SoundCloud. Maybe I can share my screen with you also.
Sure, go ahead.
Hi, can I share my screen?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, SoundCloud, you can get a lot of free stuff on there.
Yes, definitely. I recommend SoundCloud. You can find these audio blogs, audioblogs.com. No, SoundCloud. Just find SoundCloud, but there are many resources. Just be sure that your music is legal.
Good advice.
Something like this, or I've told you in my presentation about. Let me find this. Here it is, audio blogs. This is story blogs. This is the best service for me for now. I have a yearly subscription and I use this audio for all my projects.
So the yearly subscription there is seems like $8 a month, and then
I pay. I don't remember. I've paid something about $19 a year for the first time.
Okay.
Yes, and I can use this music the entire year. And there are really tons of very good tracks. And sound.
I put a quick link in the chat window for you guys, one that I use as well, bensound.com. I just remembered this. It's one I've used in the past for royalty-free music. A lot of pretty good free stuff in there. Now, keep in mind, you don't use this for, technically don't use it for any profitable purpose. It's just for, student projects or nonprofit projects. But yeah, in the chat window, I put one for Ben Sound. Personally, I've used this in the past quite a few times as well. But yeah, SoundCloud, and I've never used audio blocks, but that seems like a good one, maybe for less than the price of Netflix or something. Okay.
Okay.
Thanks for that, Victoria. We're going to move on to the next one with Les here. talking about, he mentioned asking about if you do freelance, contracts for different companies. Have you done that yourself in the past, Victoria?
Actually, not yet. I've just do this project for myself because it is my passion. I work for Yuli Halperin Foundation and 3D and maybe 2D animation now are just my passion, and I can't stop doing this.
That's awesome. All right. I wanted to just pitch in really quick to Les there, and anyone who's interested in something like that. The first step is probably to create a portfolio. Victoria already has an excellent, she's demoed to us today the Welcome to Odessa, so she can use that as part of her portfolio. Because Les was asking, should you do it?
Sorry, Kai.
Sorry, Les was asking,
my first short, by the way. I've done already.
Yeah, it's excellent. Yeah.
Oh,
it's
sorry.
definitely looking good on your portfolio for sure. But Les was asking, should I do any for the contract? I wouldn't recommend because a lot of the time what happens is some companies will try to just put the carrot in front of your face and say, oh, we're going to pay you for this, we're going to pay you later on, and then they don't end up paying you. They end up just wasting a lot of your time. So in my opinion, and I had that personally happen to me in the past, where I've spent upwards of 10 hours on a project, only for them to say just basically ghost me and just not respond to any requests for payment. So it's a good idea to just have a portfolio set up before you provide any work for them, and get a contract signed as well. Okay, I'm going to move on to the next one here. So Ali Faraz asks, Victoria mentioned you can change G3 character in Adobe Photoshop. Can you share a good YouTube link, please? Ali, I think on that website that I showed you earlier, developer.reallusion.com resource, I think they have most of the relevant and check out those. They're recommend just checking that out. Yeah, that should basically solve any of your problems there. And again, if you guys have any questions that aren't answered in this Q&A session here, you can always email myself. My email is kai@reallusion.com. That's kai@reallusion.com. And I can answer any Reallusion related questions for you there as well. So James asked a question here: when Victoria imported her logo info, was it only in PSD format? Victoria, you want to answer that one?
Yes, it was in PSD format, only in PSD format.
Great. Yeah. So when you import in PSD format, it automatically sets the different layers as different sprites.
Yes, the process was automatic. It was automatically done inside CrazyTalk Animator.
Right on. Okay. Good to know. Hopefully that answers your question there, James. That was an easy one. So Ali's asking, she's elaborating a little bit on the change of beard. Yeah, so I think one of the most interesting parts of this webinar is Victoria actually showed how you can, a better way that you can have a beard conform to a character's face by making it part of the mouth sprite and just adjusting the morph a little bit later on. We don't actually have, I don't think we made a video on something specifically like that. So yeah, do you have a YouTube channel, Victoria? You want to share in the chat window or anything like that, or?
Yes, I'll try, but my YouTube channel is in Russian. I don't think that it is very convenient for all our attendees to see this video in Russian.
I think we have some Russian people. I saw some Russian in the chat window anyways.
Okay, I'll try to share my YouTube channel with you, but I can't see where I can type now. I can't see my chat window. I just I'll try to make this another way. Just a second. Um, it's easy. Just try to find Nestergal on YouTube, and I'm sure you will find this in a minute. Oh,
Nestor Gal on YouTube, eh?
yeah, maybe
That's Nestor, right? Ter. Gal, right?
YouTube. Here it is.
Okay, I'm going to move on to the next.
And here is Nestergal Creative School. Here's my
Nestor Gal
YouTube.
Creative School. There you go.
Yeah.
Holy smokes, that your font is really big there.
Yeah, a little bit. A little, no, not very big, but yeah, it's Russian. Sorry.
All right, there you go, guys. Nestor Gal. Okay, so Ibis Fernandez wants to know a little bit more about your choice to use G3 characters over G2 characters.
I know that Ibis Fernandez,
Yep.
is a great specialist. I love his G2 characters.
He's
But
been around.
they are, but they are too complicated for me. My goal was to make this short as fast and as simple as possible. So G3 characters are the best choice for this. But I will definitely use Ibis Fernandez's method for my G characters too. I love them really. They are great. So I recommend to everyone to check Ibis Fernandez's site, web page, and you'll learn a lot, I'm sure.
There you go. Yeah, shining recommendation. Ibis Fernandez is someone who's is a user who's been with us, I think, for maybe since CrazyTalk 1, I think. And he struggled through the process of the G2 characters, which we used to have as well. They have 9 different angle profiles, but again, putting those characters together was a little complicated, and the process took a while for sure. Ibis, if you want, you can go ahead and throw your YouTube channel link in the chat window for everyone, because I think there's a lot of good stuff on there. I've spoken with Ibis like ages in the past. So a good question here from Les Henderson is, can you import photo layers from Serif's Affinity Photo instead of Photoshop? So as an overall answer to that question, it doesn't really matter what software you're using. GIMP is also a free software, by the way, a free version of Photoshop. As long as it's in PSD format, which is the Photoshop standard format there, then you'll be able to import the layers as long as it's a PSD file. Okay, so any other format you won't be able to do that. Just the PSD format. Okay, here's another question from Holly regarding Affinity Designer. Again, as long as it's in the PSD format, you'll be able to import it in. Have you used Affinity Designer yourself at all, Victoria?
No, I haven't used Affinity Designer yet, but I have Affinity Designer, and I'll try to use it because it has some strong points. But now I use only Photoshop.
Okay, great. Yeah. I think maybe we can possibly have some tutorials on Affinity Designer in the future. If we get enough demand for it, if you guys want to see any specific tutorial topics, again, feel free to email us, get in touch. We can always, put those in the production pipeline. Although now we're kind of focusing on Character Creator 3 stuff. Okay, so hope that answers that question for you there. Holly mentioned she's used story blocks before. It's a good recommendation. Yeah, so Pierre adds something here that I'm regarding Les Henderson's earlier question about working. Always good to ask for a small down payment and then set up payments at each milestone of the project. So I think that's asking for a down payment And then milestones project payment. That's also activity there from Pierre. Answer stories.
I've lost the sound.
Sorry, what was that?
I've lost the sound. Have you some questions for me? Sorry, I've lost the sound for a minute.
Okay, it looks like I'm back here.
Mm-hmm.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. Michael asks a question about putting sunglasses on a face and linking it to the face, but it did not stick whenever the character's face turned. What's your best solution for that? I'll let you answer that one, Victoria. Can you hear me?
I should try. I don't know the answer yet. I should try to do this. I haven't tried to do this yet.
Yeah, so putting sunglasses on a face can be, you know, obviously when the face turns, you'll get differing results. But I think, you know, using a similar concept to what Victoria mentioned, what she used with the beard on the mouth. Okay, so that, because if you put the beard, if you attach the beard to your character's face as a prop, again, your beard is going to move in an unnatural way. So Victoria's solution to add the beard to the mouth prop and modify the morph at individual points there is a very good method. And you can just kind of repeat that same concept with the sunglasses. You can replace an eye sprite perhaps, or even a nose sprite. Most people will use the nose sprite and just add sunglasses on top of the nose. Okay, so you'll still have the eyes underneath in case you turn at an extreme angle. So to Michael Obedeyi there, my recommendation is just for the nose sprite on your character's face, add the sunglasses onto that nose sprite in the character composer, as opposed to attaching them as a prop to the face. All right, hopefully that answers that question for you there. So yeah, Pierre wanted to mention, a couple of people asked Victoria how long the project took you from the basic script to the audio to the finished project.
10 days actually, but the problem was that that was my first 2D animated project and my first real experience in CrazyTalk Animator, and the most time was spent to prepare my assets because I made almost all of them by myself. But once you have all the assets, this is the matter just of minutes or some hours to animate all of them in CrazyTalk Animator.
Right on, yeah. So that was like 10 days, basically full days of work, or were you just kind of part-time days?
Maybe part-time, no, not all the days.
Okay, yeah, I estimated myself around like 3 or 4 full days, like 8-9 hour days of work, to do something like that. But that's, again, it depends. It was your first animated project or 2D animated project, so I think your timeline is impressive considering your first crazy to animate. I think for yeah, it's a pretty good time. Okay, so here's a question there. Okay, thank you for the recommendation in the presentation. And
Okay, I've lost your voice again. So
okay,
maybe just write if there are some questions for me.
Okay, there's right. So it seems like there doesn't seem to be any more questions, just the comments, I guess. people asking about. Yeah, we had a little bit of sound cutting out, so apologies to everyone for that. Ali is asking, is there a recommendation for a good designer on Fiverr? I can't really answer that question myself. Victoria, any recommendation?
Yeah. Me too. I've tried to order only sound voiceover on Fiverr, and it was actually my first try, and they were excellent. Don't you think so?
Yeah, in some cases you can definitely find some really good people on Fiverr, but I don't really have anyone to personally recommend. I haven't used it for probably almost 2 years now, I would say. But yeah, you can definitely find some good voices on there. I'm curious, the voices in your presentation, where did you get those from?
I've got them from Fiverr. Let me.
Oh, okay, nice.
Yes, let me show you once more these wonderful people. I worked for the first time with them. Here they are. Just a minute, just a second. Just a second. Oh, no. Here they are. Linus 88 and Andrew Welbeck. I think they did great their job.
Nice. Yeah,
I found them on Fiverr.
Looks like they have pretty good ratings anyways. Perfect ratings, basically.
Yes.
Okay, I think that's all the questions that we have here. A couple more last minute ones here. James is just says he's amazed by how awesome your first project is. I think a lot of us are. That's pretty awesome that that's your first project and you won that award. So this kind of goes to show how easy it is to pick up CrazyTalk Animator and use it. And it's only
it's really easy to use.
All right. And yeah, Michael asks if you have any guides or tips, can we contact you? Yeah, you can definitely contact me, kai@reillusion.com, or you can contact Victoria through her YouTube channel or whatnot.
Yes.
I think we're going to go ahead and end it off there because we're out of Q&A questions here and we're about half an hour over time here. So I think unless Victoria, you have anything that you want to add or?
No, just thank you for your attention.
Yeah, you did awesome. That's Victoria's very first webinar. She was a bit nervous, but I think she did an excellent job. So thanks again, Victoria, for helping us out and letting our users kind of get an inside look at how you create the working process that you use to create your project there. And yeah, I think it's very useful and eye-opening to a lot of our users here and attendees. So yeah, again, everyone, make sure that you fill out the survey we're going to send off to you. You'll get a 10% discount from the content store. And again, just to confirm, we are recording this and we'll send you the YouTube link so you can review on your own time later on via email there. Okay, so thanks again, Victoria. And thanks to everyone for attending. I think that was a pretty good webinar. And we'll hopefully see Victoria again in the future. And I think we'll sign off. All right, okay. So bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.